to the Complete Runner Podcast, episode number 8. So today we're lucky enough to have Joe and Andy with us from the Crim, and of course, our good friend Antonio. So, of course, first thing that we start off with is a little tenacity because we like to keep it local. So, what can I pour for you guys? Little Farmer's Daughter, or do you want to try this whole cone Cascade Smash, the limited series that they've done? Which you want to try there?
Man, so Farmer's Daughter is an all-time favorite.
It's a good go-to.
Yeah, it's a good go, but I've not tried the Smash, so we're going to have to.
I was going to say, Antonio,
yeah.
Crack that open. Joe, what can I do for you?
I'm going to try something new, too.
Okay.
All right. Smash as well.
So, you've heard of this. You've had this.
Yeah, I
or
had
you've had one of them.
Yep, so the one they did before this, the Smash, is that single malt, single hop. And you were telling me earlier that it's a part of a series.
I guess it's like some like limited edition series or whatever. So kind of like once it's gone, it's gone. But,
you going for this too?
I'll give it a.
Right.
There will be an odd man out there, I guess.
Nice.
Jason will be very pleased that we're
he will
partaking in all of this. I'm sure I got some tacos too.
I say I poured the most in mine.
That's all right.
Oh, did mine get the most?
Oh, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
All right, well, cheers to you guys. Thanks
Cheers to you, man. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for stopping
Yeah,
in.
indeed. Oh, it's fruitier than I expected it to be. It's good, but I guess I expected it to be more like a pale. So
Tennessee's got it going on. That's
That's some dangerous stuff, man. That goes down pretty easy.
It really does.
Not like a natter day. But
No, not quite.
I mean, natter days are delicious, by the way, if you have not had one of those. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the Crim and Flint and everything that is involved in both of those. Andy, you are the race director for the Crim.
That's right.
And Joe, you are the assistant race director for the Crim.
Correct.
And also you kind of head up the adult training program, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So, Andy, go ahead and start off. Tell us a little bit about the Crim.
So, first thing I would say is that the Crim would not exist without Flint. It's just so ingrained in the culture. And, I mean, the Crim is big, but it's there are bigger races in other places, but like there's some perfect mix of not just the size of Flint in terms of the population, but just sort of the culture and the attitude that it is just perfect. It's like it was made for the Crim. And so and the other thing that I like to say is that the Crim has had really some of the most consistently positive impacts and relationships with the residents and the city in general. It's brought some of the most positive news and things to talk about with the city since its existence in the 70s. So back in 1977, Crim, by the way, is not an acronym. It was an actual person.
Everyone thinks
everyone thinks it's an acronym. No, Bobby Crim was the Speaker of the House in the Michigan State House of Representatives and represented this area. And he actually was a runner himself, was pretty fast, and once he got into running, and but he was inspired by the Special Olympics to start a race to raise funds for the Special Olympics in like the mid 70s, and so he just decided to go ahead and start this race and get his team to get this thing going. And so the first race was really truly all volunteer run. The first several races were all volunteer run, and Lois Craig was the first director, and she's kind of a legend. She became the director, and she continued that for 18 years. So I've got a lot of shoes to fill, big shoes to fill, I should say.
High heel shoes.
Yeah. Bobby makes the joke. I was just thinking in my head, Bobby constantly makes the joke that I have big heels to fill, so that's okay. Yeah. So, but anyway, it for some reason it grew in popularity instantly. So the first race had 750 people.
Oh my gosh.
They landed Bill Rogers, who was at the time truly a household name. So in the late 70s, there was this there was this kind of boom of running, and they kind of say it was like one of the first running booms. And so it was really increasing in popularity. It wasn't just sort of like these weird hippies out there doing things. It was kind of becoming more mainstream. And so the race was one of the first in the state really to really catch on and catch that wave of the running boom. So it's a lot of metaphors all this, but anyway, the first race was like 750 people. It started at noon. That was kind of truly because of a typo. They wanted to start it earlier in the morning, and some staffer, who clearly wasn't a runner, put noon. And so but because it was
published, it's out there. You got to go with it.
Stick with it. And so I think something like between 100 and 200 people didn't finish the race because it was so hot. It was like mid-90s at noon. Just not your ideal circumstances, but it caught on in this way, and from that moment on, and I think the first one was really almost intended as like a spectator sport. And so, they brought some famous people in. And then instantly people said, "Well, I want to do that." And so it continued. It started to grow, and through the 80s, it just it was listed consistently as like one of the top races in the whole country. And the reason is because people were so excited about it. Not only to race it themselves, but it was like this excuse to have a big party all throughout the city. And so everyone came out. And so, and that's just kind of how it's continued at this point, up to this point. And, and obviously a lot of changes have happened. Anything you want to add?
I just know that first year, outside of Bill Rogers, there's also Greg Meyer, who I don't know if he had won it before his first ever Crim race or pretty soon after, but he, former Boston Marathon winner. Very, very accomplished American runner.
Current 10-mile American record holder.
That's right. So he still has the record. And then Steve Kenyon, who was our first winner actually from Great Britain. So it really was that first year, like come and watch the fastest runners around the world hit the streets of Flint. And that brought the crowds. And I think that just ties in with the spirit that a lot of the city still exemplifies today. I mean, part of the reason why tenacity is called tenacity is there's that tenacious energy the city has where, hey, I see people doing that, like I want to do that. And I think on top of striking while the iron was hot with the running boom at that time, they kind of lucked into it, but that 10-mile distance is such a perfect distance.
I was just going to say 10 miles is
it's people weren't doing marathons like people are able to do marathons today. So that part was kind of like the more hippie and really extreme people doing the marathons. 10-mile it's still a huge accomplishment to do it, but it's so much more accessible to so many more people.
Because you get these 5Kers or 10Kers, but it's a little bit farther. But so they're not used to that distance, so they run out of gas or whatever. But like you said, anyone can still go out and do 10 miles.
Right. It takes some training, but
of course.
But you don't have to give your entire life to it like you might for a marathon training session or something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing that's kind of I have a lot of personal history with the Crim, just because growing up, my dad wasn't like a hardcore runner or anything like that, but he got into running because he wanted to run the Crim. And so I grew up watching my dad basically talk about the Crim all year long. And it was like this.
It was on the radar.
Yeah, they'd run a race, they'd have a party, so it was like always this big deal. And then actually when I was at some point in my childhood, we actually moved and just by chance moved onto the Crim course right on Miller Road. So so I grew up like watching people run it and thinking someday I'm going to run that. Ironically, I hated running as a kid. And then it wasn't until I was in college and needed some inexpensive exercise that I actually came to appreciate it. And so that's what I did. And then, so that's how I became a distance runner. So I didn't run my first Crim until I was a junior in college. So, but fell in love with it. So yeah, it's always been a special part. And this is very common with a lot of families. Our whole family got to do it once together. So my sister, both my parents, there was one year where we all did the 10-mile. It was like the coolest thing. But we have families who come like they'll come from all over the country, Seattle, Washington, Seattle and New York, and they'll converge one time a year just to do the Crim.
Just to do the Crim.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's a cool part of it.
Yep.
You can bring everyone together, especially in Flint.
Right, right, exactly.
Because people are like, oh, why would you go to Flint?
It's the best day of the city, and here's the thing is that like I think it brings out the best in the city, and it's not like the city isn't great the rest of the time. It's just that like it really gets up for that one day, and it's like it just transforms downtown. The course along the way. I mean, especially this year, we had just an amazing amount of support, and organizations, churches, families just all come out and cheer racers on, and again, it's kind of becoming another excuse to have just a good time and celebrate. And so that's great.
I think people catch on to that energy, even
Yeah.
if they're not directly involved. Like even if they're not doing the race themselves, but they live on the course. They get really excited about watching these thousands of people run by their house, or the people that work for the city that day in day out they're busting and working really hard to repair roads or make sure the water's working and everything like that. They always have it on their radar, just because I think people just get caught up in how it's one of those few events. It seems like these days where it's just nothing but positive. Like no matter how you look at it, it's about people accomplishing something. On the serious side of it, on the more fun side, it's just people having a good time. So it's just a super positive event all across the board. And
I know I
are able to embrace that part of it.
I partook in maybe some bacon, some donuts,
Exactly.
maybe a little champagne. I don't know, some Jello shots. Antonio, did you sample any of the course buffet?
That's what. Yeah.
I was going to ask. So you guys talked about all these elite athletes at the beginning. How have you seen the Crim kind of transpire over the last couple of years? It seems like more and more people are leaning towards this as a race to train up to, and one that they circle on their calendar every year. How is that kind of transpiring over the past couple of years?
I'd say we see a lot of both sides of it. So you have people that if they're doing a marathon or half marathon later on in the fall, a 10-mile race is perfect, kind of leading up into it. So that's the serious side. And as more and more people are doing half marathons and full marathons, they're looking at those 1 or 2 or 3 benchmark races leading up in their training that work. And the Crim just so happens to work for a lot of people doing those distances. On the other side of that, I think we're getting the word out, and people are starting to realize how much of a party you can make that 10 miles if you really want to. With our official and unofficial water stations and aid stations along the way, all the people that are just pumping music. We have at least a dozen live performers in one way or another, whether they're DJs or full-on bands performing on the course. So I think you get a little bit of both, where you got the people that are really just looking for a fun experience and they're finding it to be a great experience that way. And then you're also finding the people that are building their running or walking around a calendar and finding those events that really help out their training leading up to their goal race.
Awesome. And actually that's a great lead-in question, because as the race has evolved and as it grew, more people wanted to do it. More people have wanted to do it, and so it's become not just a thing for elite racers, but really a race for everybody. And and as you said, Brad and Joe, like race 10 miles, you can do it. But if you feel like that's a little intimidating or a little tough, we've got a 5-mile race,
other options,
and then we also have a 5K. We have a 1 mile, and that's actually that maps also to sort of how the mission of the Crim has evolved. So for a number of years we continued our partnership with the Special Olympics, and we still have that's where our roots are, and we still have a great partnership with them. We're still one of the biggest donors every year to the local Area 13 Special Olympics, and on Friday night, the night before the Crim, if you've got time to come downtown at 6 p.m., you will see one of the most inspiring and moving athletic performances you'll ever see in your life. It's the Lois Craig Invitational. It's a Special Olympics event, and it is so cool. And so anyway, I hope you make it down for that.
Oh, for sure.
And,
So the adult train program, a lot of the groups will sponsor an athlete for that, and so we get to have our athlete run in there, and it is the coolest thing to see them running down Saginaw and Smiles, and everyone's cheering, and it's a
the love and the joy
moving
is just
sight.
amazing. Yeah, it really is.
So it's kind of, I mean, it's festival races. So
It
it's
really
not
is,
only just your 10 mile or even your 5 or whatever you're going to do on the day, but Friday you've got Lois Craig.
Yep.
And plus also you have the Michigan Mile,
Michigan,
which
Mile, yep.
that's huge.
It's really cool. What
I mean, we
love,
saw people from everywhere.
everywhere, yeah. So not only do we have, people who are, I don't think we certainly haven't had anyone break for, but we've had some fast milers. We also we're very proud to be the host of the USA Track and Field National Championship for the Masters class. So we get people from all over the country. This year, so far, it looks like we've broken 12 records for that. It's just pretty awesome, 12 American records. So we're attracting some serious talent.
Yeah.
On the other side, we get people telling us all the time, this is my first mile ever. And like they're just like the joy in their face is amazing. We've also had like a couple of years ago, we had a World War II veteran finish in a walker surrounded by his family.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
cool. And this year we had some really amazing athletes who I think were severely disabled, like had almost like no motor ability, but because of some technology assistance with almost like robots, they were able to actually
I saw
do
him.
it.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to see these people who might otherwise not even be able to move, or be in like an electric wheelchair doing a mile. It was so cool. And then the nice thing is that like so what has also started to grow is not just like the race on Friday night and the Special Olympics. We also have a bigger like festival going on all evening on Friday night. So this year, thanks to our friends at Team One, we had like kind of a party through the decades, and this we called it Rock the Block, and it was just this excellent party, and we had more people there than we've ever had. What's cool about that is that it's the intent is that it was a show for the entire community, regardless of whether you're going to run or do anything the next day. We wanted people to come downtown and have a good time, and sort of be a part of that spirit of the Crim, because that's the message we're really trying to send, is that the Crim is for everybody. And so it was really wonderful to see how many people actually showed up, had a great time, and it stayed till the end. So it was
And I'm sure weather had a part to play.
We got really lucky this year, especially compared to last
I
year.
think we wrote a couple more good ones, honestly. So,
Yeah. Oh man.
So I guess speaking of weather, last year was a tough race.
Yeah.
It didn't go the way that anyone thought it was going to. You guys did a phenomenal job of being able to pull off the race regardless of the delay and everything else that was going on. Kind of talk about that day, I guess, a little bit, because it was kind of a disaster from early morning.
Yeah, it really was. And what was crazy is that the early morning was beautiful. It was like lovely day. And we just kept watching these reports. And I mean, the crazy thing is we knew even 2 weeks out, they were reporting just terrible weather for race day. And so that morning we were on the phone with probably 3 different meteorologists constantly. And so about 7 o'clock, we got the thumbs up from a number of meteorologists. One basically said, if you don't start on time, a second front might hit you. Another meteorologist said, well, it looks like it's going to pass north. And so we're like, okay, let's do it. We let the wheelers off at 7:30, 30 and 40-year runners, 7:45, 8 o'clock. What was happening, and really at like 7:57, it wasn't even raining. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was like 7:50 for sure. It was not even raining. And then what happened is there was this, if this is Flint and like the race course, there was this front that was going like this, and it was long like this, and all of a sudden it literally just like closed like a fist right over the race course. And we let the runners off at 8, and at like 8 o'clock and however many seconds, and so it was the elite. It was the elite wave, and the police chief grabbed my elbow. It was like, the race is off. I was like, okay, it's
like,
done.
all right,
we're done. So, and I mean, I've never seen people scatter. I mean, it was when it hit hard, and so everyone scattered. And we knew this, thankfully, because the the forecast was at least relatively, the extended forecast was relatively accurate. It had basically been all we talked about all week long, for the week and even 2 weeks prior. So we did have a plan. We communicated as much as we possibly could to all the racers ahead of the race. Okay, this is what, we've got these storms coming in potentially. These are the places. So we circled all the designated shelters. What really amazed me is how many businesses and other places in downtown Flint just opened their doors. They said, come on in. So Huntington Bank had all this cool stuff for their own employees, volunteers. And then they realized people started coming in. They're like, oh, well, here you go. So so they let as many people, it was like shoulder to shoulder, but they let everyone in. And that, and the rule is when lightning strikes within 10 miles of a course, you have to delay for at least 30 minutes until it's 30-minute delay after the last lightning strike. Yeah. And so what was happening is all those racers were waiting, all those volunteers were waiting, all the officers throughout that 10-mile course, and everyone's just waiting for this to end. And so I don't know, from your perspective, Joe. Joe had a really unique perspective because he's on the press truck.
So yeah.
So you're on the course actually.
So I'm just north of the bridge. An eighth of a mile, or a couple hundred feet away from the start line, and I'm getting a call as the race is about to go off, saying "Hey, lightning was detected." And I'm like, "You are telling the wrong guy. I can't do anything about that right now." But what we learned, and something that we've since addressed in our race plans in the future, is that we had found that we have radios. We have radios that we've used in the past, and they just weren't really cutting it. It would be too quiet. The atmosphere and the environment would be way too loud to hear anything on the radio. And so we decided, hey, let's just use our cell phones. Problem is, when you have 60,000 people on that same plan of using your cell phone, it's not going to work. So you couldn't. Our phones,
man.
Our phones just weren't keeping up with the constant incoming calls and text messages
for a minute because it was getting too much.
And so we finally got the word that the race should be stopped after that first wave goes off. And so while everyone else was figuring out what was going on, I'm on the press truck. We're driving. It's the first wave. I'm thinking, okay, the rest of the group may not start, but this race is off.
They're off.
Now we need to worry about making sure that everyone in here is going to be moving smoothly. And we make that kind of sharper turn on 2nd Ave and are starting to come back down on Harrison. And one of my main jobs on the press truck is to make sure that we're not ever inhibiting the lead runners. So it's telling the cops or the lead, ceremonial lead vehicle to either speed up, slow down, things like that. And I just kept on seeing the cops just right in front of the press truck. And I'm not one to yell at a cop.
Yeah,
I feel weird about yelling at a cop.
Go.
But I'm like, we gotta go. And finally, thank goodness, her name's Nicole. She's been one of our lead motorcyclists from the FPD for a number of years now. She finally was the first person to tell me, "Hey, no, it's canceled. We're done." And so then my brain shifted to, how am I going to stop 200 people that are traveling at 13 miles an hour from continuing on this course? Luckily, the cops also helped me out. It actually worked out perfectly in that we're basically essentially back at a block away from downtown.
You just kinda,
we were at Kersley and Harrison.
Right,
So everyone, I like to think of it as everyone had a half-mile warm up.
It was just kind of a nice little job.
But and we've since, we've gone back to the radios. We actually, this year, we put our repeater up in the tallest, on the roof of the tallest building in the city. So we were able to hear all the way out to Dorr Highway using our radio. So it's definitely, it's a hard lesson to learn, but I'm glad we did get to learn it. And the biggest thing was, at one point we were worried on if we were actually going to get those races to go off. Just from a standpoint of opening or keeping the city streets closed for so long, eventually you got to let people get to work.
I was going to say, there's so much that is on a timetable for you guys, and I don't know if people always realize all the moving parts involved with basically shutting down a city in order to do a race like this with 20,000 people.
So
you can only delay it so long.
So you've got people that live on the course that need to do things. On top of that, just all of the volunteers and specifically law enforcement and public safety officers that we have across the course. A lot of times they're coming from another shift, so they're working already, near 24 hours straight. We're just literally running, and we had a time set that we need to start by X time in order for these races to happen in the first place. And another part of that built in was we're literally going to have all of our races go off as close to their scheduled start times as possible. So that's why the 5 mile and the 5K went off so close to the 10 mile, closer than they normally
because you're trying to keep that schedule
exactly.
As,
we're trying to keep as many
possible.
exactly.
Right. Allow the streets to open back up as early as possible.
Correct. And because of that, there were a fair number of people that weren't able to do that double, but we reached out to everyone that was signed up for the doubles, gave them a coupon code so they could redeem a 5K entry in this year's race. But yeah, it was cool to see. I mean, it was one of those experiences where it was super stressful and it made us really appreciate the weather we had this year.
Can't imagine.
But at the same time, some stories have come through and we've heard back from people that because of that delay, all their preconceived notions and stresses about the race went away. And bottom line, they were out there just having a great time. I mean, I'll say I was out on the course after all the rain delays and things happened, and I would say not a racer I saw was in a bad mood. Once people are actually
having fun,
to be out there,
when they crossed the start line, they were not smiling. But when they crossed the finish line, they were smiling. It was cool. And I mean, I've got to hand it and really give a huge shout out to our volunteers. Law enforcement and our volunteers who stuck it out. I mean, we had
not one water station.
Not one water station left. Even our entertainment, like the bands, they all stuck it out, and so people ended up having a great time, no matter despite the crazy weather. And yes, we were absolutely rewarded this year, and there are no guarantees.
Should be for the next 5 years.
I hope that's how weather karma works for races, but no guarantees. Who knows? But no, this year it couldn't have been a better day. I mean, it was sunny but not hot, and low humidity, and I know a ton of people who PR'd on that on our race this year, and so that part, it was really nice to just be able to have that, and I think people were ready. It was almost kind of cathartic to have a good race after a crazy race.
For sure, you're kind of chomping at the bit,
right, and so I mean, I and really, like, we've gotten some of the most positive feedback, percentages and comments in our surveys, and just even anecdotally, like people just coming up to us and telling us, wow, every part of the race was just great. so and again, that's thanks to our volunteers who there are a lot of people who could have said, I'm not doing that again, that was terrible, so thankfully, we sort of show Flint's tenacity. And,
there you go. It all comes back to a little tenacity.
Good or bad, exactly.
And speaking of tenacity, Joe might need a little more of the same here. Yeah. Antonio as well. Right. Might as well fill up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys are known for this big race, the Crim, but you guys have your hand in a lot of other stuff. The Canusa, the runway coming up. You want to tell us a little bit about what else you guys got going on?
Yeah. So I can go kind of like calendar year. People. I'm sure a lot of people just know us first and foremost from the Crim race in August, but things are up and rolling pretty early with our training program that kicks off in May. So we're really getting everything ready, organizing groups. I mean, there's 1,700 plus people that do that program. So it's really organizing groups, getting people to fit into a group that really matches their pace. On top of our Genesee County-based program, we have one that's focused on Flint community, so partnering with faith-based organizations, all the Flint community schools, things like that. We have our campus training program, so a lot of moving parts with that, getting that rolling in May. And also, we launched something this year for the first time that instead of focusing on partnering with voucher races and things like that, a group that would meet a little less formally, maybe not follow a training calendar, but just meet socially to go for runs once a week.
Maybe
more of like a club,
and partner instead with bars and restaurants to get a little discount that way. So the Blue Line Running Club, that was the first year doing that. So all that stuff kicked off in early May. And then we have the Marty Austin Kids Classic on the first Saturday of June. That kind of kicks off our kind of like race series season.
What are ages on the kids
So
classic?
for a kids classic, it's 12 and under.
We've had some 14-year-olds.
I guess that is true. Yeah.
but
So
mostly
distance-wise, we have what we call a diaper dash. So it's like 20, 30 feet.
Mhm.
And then we have a toddler trot, which is 30, 40 feet.
50,
And then a quarter mile, half mile, and full 1 mile. So really geared towards it. Kind of kicks off the summer running club kind of season for a lot of those kids. So we have a lot of different clubs all throughout Genesee County that'll start meeting in the summer, and that's kind of like the first time they're able to meet as a club and do that race together.
It's a little kids' Crim. They
Yeah.
get a shirt and a medal and a beer.
That's cool. Yeah.
Running bear,
shots.
Not a beer. Yeah.
running bear is always there.
Maybe a natter day.
Right. Hey.
Sounds like my kind of race. Quarter mile diaper.
I know Antonio just signed up.
Shirt and medal, yes.
You don't have to wear a diaper.
And pizza.
do you?
No.
well,
Why not?
Would you?
you would do
No.
anything for a shirt and a medal, right?
Yeah. You said beer too, man. Don't do that.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
And then this year we had what used to be our Tour de Crim that was once in May and then moved September. Then we finally found another a better weekend, honestly, weather-wise, the week after the Kids Classic. So that took place in June, and that was a 10 or a 20-mile bike ride.
You have your choice, 10 or 20.
Yep. So that was the second weekend in June. And then we partner with Kettering University to put on the Kettering University Atwood Stadium races. So 5K, 10K.
And that race has
It's
been
got a
around
cool history.
for a long
Yeah,
time.
It started
Tory,
as the Tory.
I think it's a couple.
Yeah,
and then became the Atwood races. Another family took it over, and then they sort of willed it over to Kettering, and Kettering said, "Sure,
I know,
but we
which
don't know
awesome
how to
it's
run
still
a
going.
race." Yeah. But then we helped them out with that in terms of putting it on.
Yeah.
So it's very cool.
Yeah, so that's typically the third weekend in July, and then finally we get to focus on our signature race in August. But then right after the Crim, we helped put on what was the Ally Challenge 5K or Adidas 5K Challenge last year. It was called the Canusa 5K Challenge this year, as part of the Ally Challenge in Grand Blanc. So that was, I believe, September 14th and 15th.
Yeah, 14.
Yep, this year. So just
blurred.
moving on from one
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're not done yet.
I was going to say, Antonio was mentioning you got a cool one coming up. First one.
And so a really good partner of ours, Bishop International Airport, approached us and said, "Hey, we want to have a race at our airport. Can you help us put it on?"
The tarmac.
And we said, "Yes, absolutely."
Yes.
5K on the runway. First ever time that any race has been at Bishop Airport.
How cool is that?
We're actually on the runway for the course.
So pretty hilly, right?
Yeah, really. Really hilly.
Get your
really sharp
hills
turns.
A lot of traffic we have to manage.
So pancake flat, really wide sweeping turns. So honestly, a really good place to set a.
I was going to say, I wonder if a lot of people are looking at this as kind of like a PR.
And someone will set a course record this year.
That's right.
That is true. That is true.
So it's Saturday, November 9th. So it's the week after the Burton Veterans Run. So that's another nice thing. We're not competing with any other races. Super excited for that. We originally, we're talking about, what we're looking at, what we're going to give away. We decided to go with a winter hat. Just it's the right season.
Really cool hat.
To get a winter hat. And registration's already booming. We have
taken
darn near 250 people already signed up.
That's
over
awesome.
at this point. We're really excited.
That's cool. I mean, there's Wings of Mercy, who does a race, and it's kind of the same idea, and that's hugely popular, and people love doing that. So to actually be on Bishop, like going to that's pretty cool.
And we've already heard from some people who said it's going to be their first 5K ever. It's kind of not so intimidating because it is relatively flat. You don't have to worry about hills. But I think the other nice thing is that there will be a lot of runners and walkers who are going to be in kind of the peak of their shape if they've been training for like a big fall race, and this will be kind of their opportunity, especially if they've been doing some longer distance stuff, to really just crank it out and hammer out a 5K and see how fast they can really run. It'll be a good opportunity to test themselves, but also have a great time. So,
I don't know, visually, like, run down there. Where?
What? Yeah. It will probably seem a little odd, but we're going to try and have some fun along the way as well. So we'll work on that. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. That's,
Well,
cool.
I do know, I can say this for sure. I'm sure we'll see, a couple of planes take off and land, but because we not on our runway, just to make sure you know.
gotta
there are
dodge.
2 runways, so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, what were we looking up? North by Northwest.
Yeah,
That one scene where Cary Grant's running away from the plane.
Not that.
Yeah.
But there will be some really kind of cool like airport equipment out, just kind of helping not only guide but give you something to look at as you're going along. So that'll be nice.
So where do people sign up?
So thank you. You can go to crimraces.org and you can sign
and we'll
up.
put that down here.
Sweet. Yeah. We got a Facebook event, of course, where it just gives sharing a little bit of information. You can link to registration there, and so it's we're really excited about it. We see it. Bishop's really excited. They're already sort of ecstatic because it's already exceeded their expectations. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, so you got a 5K run, 5K walk, and then a little pilots kids run.
Yeah, that's right for everyone. And strollers are allowed. If parents, new parents out there, you're welcome to bring your strollers. No pets though. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's been interesting about planning this is that in a lot of ways you kind of do need to have people come to this race like they're about to go on a flight with that mindset.
Be prepared because
you're allowed to bring your own water. They're not going to
security.
They're not going to charge you a bunch of money for a bottle of water.
Right,
Make you pour it out.
Pour it out.
But I mean, things like the firearms, and even us operationally, we're thinking about things just making sure we're as safe as possible, and there will be like a check-in and check-out process to make sure the same number of people are leaving as entering.
Yeah, I would imagine
some of those extra loops you have to
tighter,
jump through being on an airport. But honestly, it's the payoff is so worth it.
Yeah,
it's such a unique experience.
So, sneak preview on like swag and stuff. Is it all going to be airplane themed?
Metal shirts.
So the giveaway is going to be the hat. So it's like a blue and white striped hat with a little palm on the top, and then we'll have the official 5K on the Runway logo embroidered on it.
Can wear it all winter long, which is pretty
nice.
great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Still shopping for what the finisher award's going to be. So that will be announced as soon as we get that taken care of, and then we will have age group awards. We're really trying to. Even today, we're planning out what we want to offer in the post-race area.
We'll definitely have some nice goodies to eat. Some hot chocolate, stuff to keep you warm. Yeah.
Cool. Exactly. So we're really trying to make it a
finishing the race
experience.
You should get wings.
That has been one of the ideas.
Definitely crossed our definitely crossed our minds. So
it's time to fly.
Time to fly. Ooh, I like
you
it.
get a steal sponsor that.
Yeah. Okay. Whoa.
Hashtag time to fly. Anything after that, or do you kind of start it all over again?
Honestly, by then we really just instantly
go on vacation.
Going. Well, we kind of crashed for a minute. Well, not like plane wise, but we do. Wrong metaphor.
Cut that.
Right. So we do take it easy over the holidays, but then really by the beginning of January, we are already into like not only planning but recruitment mode for the training program. For all the races, we actually we kick off. It's been really successful the last couple of years. We kick off registration for our major, like the training program and the race, with a Cyber Monday deal. And each year we've done it, we've gotten some successively larger in terms of the response.
So people know that it's coming now,
Yep.
and so they're prepared and ready to go.
And it's the best deal you'll get all year to sign up for your Crim race or the Crim training program. So it's and that's. It's nice for us because then it helps us know. It's nice for the people who sign up because then they're excited. They kind of plan
They put it on the
year
calendar.
Exactly.
They're ready to
You're
go.
in. You're locked and loaded at that point. So
what is that early bird pricing? Is it 45 for the Crim there? 10 mile?
I believe so.
yeah, I
Yes.
think it's 45
Nice.
for the 10.
Yeah, that's an awesome deal.
Yeah. So that's actually kind of I'll say that like 45 for the quality of race that we have.
That's amazing.
We pride ourselves in that, in keeping that price low. Because
I'm pretty sure my medal, as much as it weighed, was $45.
Probably, yeah.
But you look at
I will tell you, but it's a big deal, right, exactly,
That too.
And then you got the shirt on top of
Jello
it,
shots,
You get exercise, some sweet swag, you get a party out there, you really can't go wrong.
Well, and it's a big deal to us because we want the race, we want as few barriers as possible for people to come out and celebrate with us, but also to even make that decision to become a runner or a walker. Like we want people to take their first steps and do that, and we don't want someone to say, oh, I can't pay $120 for a race. I'm not going to do that. So we really pride ourselves on that, and honestly, our sponsors are who make that possible, because our race costs just as much as all those other races do to put on, but because we have our sponsors, like if we only use what we charge people, we would lose money. But thanks to our sponsors, we're able to
do all this stuff to make it amazing.
Exactly, and that's by design. We're not trying to make a ton of money. We're trying to get as many people to enjoy themselves and be active all year long. And that's kind of what's happened with the Crim over the last 15 years or so. We have evolved from just being a race to really being a force for health and wellness in the community, and it was kind of by accident. Actually, it wasn't by design, but thankfully we have a board who realized that we were providing some serious services. At first, with the training program, it was a couple hundred people. It was intended to be just for 1 year to get a few more people to buy race registration and do the race. But what happened is, and we had this great program with Jeff Galloway, and the methodology was great. But what we didn't realize is that people, not only did they like the methodology, but they liked each other, and they had so much more fun. Yeah, exactly, and it became so much more fun to train. And it can be a grind. But when you're doing it with other people, when you're suffering with other people, it makes it a little easier. It makes it a little easier to get out there, whether it's early in the morning or right after work.
Accountability to show up for all your friends that are there on every Tuesday or Thursday or whatever it is.
And you tend to you get to know more people. You get to know them better. A lot of the folks have become really close. Some people have become married because they've met at the training program. It's pretty amazing, like those connections. And so that's really the magic of the training program. Yes, the methodology is proven. It's there. It will get you to your race. But we have people who have been doing this for 20 years now, and they know how to.
Yeah, they know the calendar by heart.
Yeah, they know how to train. Yeah, but it's the people. They love the people, and so we love that. So that's now it's our job to just keep that going and keep it meaningful and special for everybody. So
you guys have really created a culture, because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm running down here and I see a fellow runner, they're always, hey, great job. And I think that's something that you guys created, because it started with the training programs, seeing other training programs. Hey, good job, keep it up. And it's kind of evolved to now whenever they see a runner, walker, anybody in general, hey, keep it up, great work. Even after the Crim has came and gone, they're still doing that. Yeah. So I think it's awesome what you guys do.
That's one thing I love about Flint, is that in other places that I've lived and I've ran, I would get less positive calls out towards me. I got the classic run Forest runs and things like that. I will say, I honestly, knock on wood, in Flint, it's always something positive. Yeah. And it could be another runner or walker. It could be someone that's about to start like a third shift at a factory, and they're like, "Hey, man, you're doing it."
I was going to say, like, it's so the people standing outside their house or going by in a car. They're like, "Woo, nice job!"
The thing that I love the most is when we're running and like a little kid will run out of his yard or her yard and just run with us for like a block or a block and a half and be like, "Hey, you guys are doing great." Yeah, it's just so much fun. Like everyone is like excited about it.
Yeah, so, it's not like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
it's like they're training for the Crim.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows.
Mm-hmm.
With that, with the early bird special pricing, does that include Blue Line this year? Since last year it kind of it was started a little bit late. It wasn't ready then. So this year, can they sign up for the race, training program, and also Blue Line?
I think we're still in the process of figuring out what the Blue Line's going to be. Because I will say there's like a core group of that club that we're actually continuing to meet year round on Wednesdays for the time being. So I think that we're trying to figure out what that group's going to become, whether it's going to be a year-long thing where you're just paying your dues like a club is going to be, or if it's just the May through August thing again. What I'm loving about this, though, is that if you're living in the Flint area, in Genesee County in general, you can literally plan out and not run or walk alone any night. I mean,
You're
Tuesdays
right.
you have
Yeah.
the training groups,
Yeah, I
whether
know.
they're meeting formally or informally. You have the Blue Line or Brew Line on Wednesdays. You have your awesome runner club runs on Thursdays. Like
yeah.
you could find days where you're
Just
not
about
doing
any-
your
yeah,
run and walk alone.
Everyone's out almost every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you just show up, at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning early, there's a group of people who just casually go, and it doesn't matter what distance, doesn't matter what speed. It's just and again, it's just this culture. I mean, I appreciate that you say that we've created it. Yeah, we're a part of it, and I'm proud to be a big part of it. But it's the people who are excited about it, and they realize, oh, it's good for me, but it's also good for my friends and my family. I'll tell you, like my wife, she goes on what she calls her good mommy runs because it's like her therapy, So it's like people realize pretty quickly, like it's cathartic cleansing. It's like it's what we need, and whether it's a run or a walk or some other type of activity, we like running and walking, but it's what we need as people to sort of to reset ourselves, to clear the mind, and be ready to be good people the rest of the life, the rest of the time and throughout our lives. So it's not just something for us, and it's not just something. It becomes a reward in itself. That's the other thing that I think is great about running. And yes, when you're first starting, it can be really challenging and intimidating, and you kind of push through. But especially once you hit a few of those race goals, like the Crim, like we want to be a goal, but we also want to inspire people to sort of get over that hump of just doing it for the sake of getting through the race and getting the medal, to like, hey, I really like running and or walking, and I want to do this because I find that it's rewarding just to do that, just to get out there, and that's my self-care, that's my me time.
As long as there's a cool shirt in your mouth.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. So we'll be there with that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, you guys have succeeded in doing that, because we've had people come in that have trained through the training program to the 10 mile, and then they saw the 10 mile out, and now they're doing a half marathon because
that's what we want. That's
they've built
mission
on.
accomplished.
Yeah. So you guys have definitely hit your goal, and you guys are doing a great job with that.
We have a lot to be proud of with our with the whole community.
I think people don't realize all that is here in Flint. They hear the news and they don't understand the community that we have, the culture that we have, the race that we have. There's so much good stuff going on here that people get lost on that. But then hearing all stories like this, it's kind of cool to kind of come back and go, okay, there's a lot here, and it's great to be a part of the community.
That's honestly, it's one of the biggest side accomplishments and missions we have with the race, is that we get the people that haven't been downtown in 10, 20 years, and they come downtown.
They don't even recognize it.
And they're blown away by all the positive and great things that are happening.
It's one of my favorite things about this.
And that's one thing that honestly, it's one of the things that makes me the most proud, but it's one of the things that I will never be satisfied with, the number of people that have that experience.
We need more.
I know.
Everyone to see how great Flint is. And so, that is really, it's been one of the more rewarding parts of this. Is, it takes the sport of running out of it. It takes it into just being proud of where you live.
One of the cool stories I remember is our Garmin rep Jay came in for the Crim Expo, and so he stayed downtown, and he went over to Foster's Coffee. It's an amazing place,
delicious.
So he was sitting in Foster's having this beautiful cup of coffee, and he was on his laptop working away, and he kind of like looked up. And he's like, I completely forgot where I was. I had no idea I was in Flint, Michigan. I could have been in downtown Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was crazy because here I got this amazing coffee and this cool vibe around me. And he's like, it was cool to see that. And then all of a sudden go, I'm in Flint.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like Chicago, less expensive.
And like you guys are saying, everyone's got this stigma about Flint, and I mean, we're a block away from beautiful, $500,000 houses, right? 2 blocks away, but no one sees them because there's this negative
Unless you come on the Complete Runner group run on Thursday nights at 6 p.m.
And honestly, I mean, that's a good point, though. Like, that's a great point that, like, wherever you run, in the city, you see things that you might not otherwise see, and so you see the good, you see some of the not so good, but like you also come to appreciate things that might be considered not so good, but you actually, instead of just driving by and saying, oh, you actually get to appreciate some of the people, and how things really are. But yeah, like that's one of the great things about running in general and walking is that it takes you on these routes. You can go wherever, and then you get to see a lot more of what's great about an area.
So one thing we do on here is called the Big Three. So just 3 quick questions. We'll start with you, Andy. So first question is going to be, what is your favorite race? And you might be a little impartial.
Do we have to make it a rule
That's
that it has to be one of the Crim races that we do?
Man.
Maybe that's
okay. So favorite race that you've ran, still can be the Crim.
Okay.
You just have to name the year.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I will. Probably my PR of the Crim was probably like the best race I ever did. And it was my junior year of college, and I had just gotten good in running, was just coming off of being on a sports team, and so I was in good shape to begin with, but then transferred over to running, and just it was great to come back, and it was because, again, I think it was because of sort of that personal and family connection. It was just I'm doing what I had told myself for years I was going to do. All those years of sitting and watching other racers saying, someday I'm going to run the Crim. Finally, it was.
And there you were.
Yeah. That was probably just because of the meaning of all that was this commitment sort of fulfilled that. So. But I've had some fun actually watching my wife run. So she's done some triathlons, and so seeing her go through these crazy emotional swings of thinking she wasn't going to finish a race, and then
you're along for the ride.
Right, along for the ride. Yeah, I'm happy to be a Sherpa as well. So it helped with that. But and that's almost just as meaningful. When you're supporting someone else doing it too. So that's when it comes to mind. Those are.
Joe. Favorite race
that I participated.
I mean, holy cow! That could be a college meet. That could be.
Yeah, I feel like that's
teddy bear track.
I never did a teddy bear track.
Beer mile. I mean, it could be anything.
I've actually never done a beer mile.
Oh, well, all right.
First time for everything, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Pierce Park is just a couple blocks.
I know. We're just outside.
I mean, if I'm ruling out, I've only actually done one Crim race, and I was actually a pacer for it. So I didn't really race it, which was actually a really fun experience.
Joe's definition of not racing it though is what you paced the 60-minute.
Yeah, so I do have it going for me that I've never not broken 60 at the Crim. That's only because I've done it once. So I'll do another 10-mile race. I mean, the Crim is obviously the signature 10-mile race in the state, but I always loved trying to go to it, trying to talk my parents into doing it, and then finally doing it in high school, the Run Through Hell in Hell, Michigan. Literally just because I wanted the shirt that says
you just want the swag. It always comes down to the swag.
The 10-mile distance, perfect distance. Only way you can beat the streets of Flint is by going through hilly dirt roads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that has some nostalgia. That's a pretty fun race. And what I love about that race too is that for a while they ended up not having an official formal race anymore, just because sponsorships got lost, this, that, the other. And a friend of mine said, "Well, we've been doing this race for so many years. We're still going to do it. So everyone meet. I'll put it on. We'll just have a 10-mile competitive race."
Way it should be, yeah.
And it was. I mean, there wasn't even any registration. It was people showing up and just a stopwatch to time them. But I mean, there were guys that ran 51, 52 minutes for this 10-mile distance, and for this random summer weekend that there wasn't an official race, you're running very, very fast times. And since that guy had a job at a deli, the awards were a pound of deli meat.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is awesome.
Honestly, that would be
those grassroots race and then honestly the Flint Turkey Trot is such a cool race.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving morning in Mott Park, and the awards are homemade pies from local bakers. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So I'd say those are my favorite too. Would be Run Through Hell, and then the Flint Turkey Trot.
So second question, Andy, is most memorable race experience. Now this could be good or bad.
Yeah.
So if you got any good stories.
Well, I mean, honestly, so.
Because Antonio dropped his cell phone in the Porta-John.
No, I haven't had that kind of a race experience.
Very bad service.
Did he keep the phone?
And a blue hand.
I did. I got the phone.
Oh, and the blue hand. Wow. How many days did that stay on your hand?
Not very many.
Okay, good.
Got a new phone too.
He rubbed his skin off.
Right?
all good.
Like a Sanders. No, I have a couple. One is actually I was pretty young. Because, like I said, my dad was into running, and he tried to get me into running, and I kind of was for a while, but I was the kind of kid who would, like, fake an ankle injury, so I wouldn't have to run. But we did this.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
All right, we know now.
Yeah, that trick doesn't work. Anyway, we ran this Father's Day, like a 4-mile that ended right in front of City Hall in Flint, and it was this really cool run, and I spent the night at my grandma's, and long story, she gave me like some like oat bran for breakfast, and we're running along, and like never had this experience before, but I'm like mile 2, I'm like, Dad,
I gotta stop.
I gotta go. And there were no porta potties along the way, which is also a common complaint that we have with the Crim, even though we have them every mile. Like people, they're never where people need them.
Exactly.
At that
They're
moment.
never
exactly.
Yeah, they're never. But that's okay. Yeah, understandable. I can sympathize. But I basically like I made it through clean, but I didn't even go through the finish line. And this is before the days of chip or championship or anything. So there were the chutes. I didn't even go through the chute. I just went straight to the. So that was like one of my
saw the
first
bathroom.
memories.
You're like, God.
So maybe that's why I didn't run again until I was in college. So, but then actually like that, I like my first half marathon was Dexter Ann Arbor, and I started it so confident, like so cocky, and like I remember seeing some friends. Like who I didn't actually know ran, and I was like, "Oh, you're doing this too, cool!" And I took off, and I was probably at a good clip that felt good to me. And then suddenly I'm around like mile 8, and I wasn't following any training program or anything, but like the week before I had like this amazing run that I'd run for 2 hours, and I knew I was going really fast, like I'm pushing myself. But again, not following any kind of training program, that's probably like a really dumb thing to do, right? To really push yourself a week before a good run. So I like by mile 8, my hips started hurting, and I finished, but like I almost didn't finish, and I almost passed out at the end. And all those people who I had passed at the beginning, every one of them just between mile 9 and 13. I got passed by
like,
all those people. Hey, you doing all right? Yeah. So that was an important lesson to me in pacing, and also like understanding your body and knowing, not only training but just like on race day, like understanding how your body works, or doesn't work.
At least you didn't have poop.
True, yeah.
Andy's always advocating for more and more porta johns.
Exactly.
Because of his traumatic experience when he was little.
Exactly.
He's like, "Where's the porta john?"
I have a trailer behind my car with porta johns.
Isn't it weird that both of us have terrible experiences with porta johns?
Luckily, I did not lose my phone.
He didn't lose it. He got it back.
I got it back. Yeah, I knew exactly where it was.
Right, that is true.
The soul of the phone, though.
Yeah, right. And a little of your own soul as you.
Yeah. Joe, what about you? Most memorable experience, good or bad?
I mean, not my own personal experience, but I'd say I'll do a good and a bad. A good one would be watching my younger brother win the D1 state title in the 3200 in track.
Very cool.
Because I watched. I mean, he did all of like the Crim youth stuff growing up. He was just because I was running in middle school and high school, the family just bought into it immediately, and so he was running from such an early age, and to watch the journey of this kid with all the potential in the world, and throughout setbacks, illness, injuries, things like that. He had all the talent in the world, all the smart training throughout his high school career, but he just never had, unfortunately, just never lined up super well to have
Put it together, yeah.
the performance that he really was capable of putting together. And so his senior year, him winning the 3200, being there at States, like I was yelling and cheering so loud, I was like passing out because I was forgetting to breathe. I was yelling so hard. It's so much harder to watch someone you care about race.
Yeah.
Because you have no control. Like you wish you could take on their pain, and you just the feeling of you have no control over the outcome. So it's something where you really are empathizing and with trying to channel all your positive energy to that person. To see him be able to shine as bright as he really could all his career on that one day was such an awesome experience. Bad, I feel like I'd be like kind of ducking it if I didn't talk about my experience this past May, where I was trying to run my first marathon at Bayshore, and I ended up in the hospital for a day. So I had
it's not funny, but
I actually had a really serious heat stroke during the marathon. So I don't remember anything after like mile 15. And I kind of like woke up or came to in the hospital with ice bags all over me. I mean, like just totally out of it mentally. They were asking me what my date of birth was. I was giving them my social security number. It was the right social security number.
Yeah, well,
it was not what they were asking for. And so yeah, I guess, and I love the one of the first things I asked when I was finally starting to come a little more to was like, did I finish? And they, for the longest time, maybe they knew, maybe they didn't, but they're like, we don't know. But then finally, I actually thought about looking at my watch, and despite me not remembering anything after mile 15, I stopped my watch and I stopped running.
That's a runner right there.
At mile 19 or something like that. Still on pace, but obviously. So that was an interesting experience to say the least.
I think that says a lot, though, that you maintained your pace up until the point that you passed out. Like you didn't.
It was definitely
like
falling down pretty precipitously.
Give yourself a break. You were just pushing.
You wanted to hit that goal.
Yeah.
Not only for a BQ.
Yeah.
But you had a little
we had a little bit
too.
of a side bet going on. I had a bet with Bobby Crim that I'd be able to run a Boston qualifying time my first time through. And that's just Bobby's style of
and kids, that is the lesson.
That's honestly
never bet with Bobby.
That's honestly Bobby's style though. Like he was giving me such a hard time, but it's because he knew that I could do it if I put my mind to it. And I did a post about this too after it happened. Like the end goal was never to finish the marathon. It was just to get back in touch with that guy that was a runner.
Yep.
And I definitely did. Like it was fun following a plan and executing workouts, going on long runs. I dropped 25 pounds. Like all that part of it was awesome. That being said, I still have unfinished business, and I will.
You'll be back.
At some point,
You'll be back.
I have to add that Joe did all this training and this with a 1-year-old daughter. So like the fact that you're able to even commit to that and make that happen with a child who is like at the most demanding moments of their life in your life is pretty darn impressive.
Couldn't do it without an amazing wife.
Well, that's
shout out Naomi.
Indeed.
You got one circled for follow up?
Not entirely sure yet. I'm thinking more like a fall marathon. That way I'm not training throughout the winter and the early spring and then getting hit with a hot day. I'd rather train in the heat and then be graced with a cooler day.
Makes sense.
But to be determined.
That was a weird day. It was nice and cool to start, and then it's like as soon as the sun came up, it broke all the fog, and then it was hot. It was hot.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
So question number 3 is the coolest thing you've ever gotten from a race.
Oh, wow. Coolest thing.
Yeah, like any swag, like shirts, medals.
Joe's like an IV bag.
Yeah.
Crippling hospital bills.
A new iPhone.
That's right. Did I ever tell you they found it?
No.
They mailed it back to me. So
after wandering it?
Yeah.
Or,
I don't know where they found it. But,
does it work?
Yeah, it works.
Oh, good.
This is
So you really did get a new iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple of races, a couple of triathlons in Chicago put on by Running Away Multisport. And one was like a this great backpack that I still use. Like that was pretty cool.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, I will say also, a beer after a race. Like there are definitely moments that I remember the beer that was put in my hand, and it's not even the thing, like
It's the highlight
it's
right
the
there.
yeah, exactly. It's just like that.
That's the high life. I mean,
Right.
That's a champagne.
Although I would
beer.
take that. I would take the high life. I just enjoy that a lot. That'd be that's pretty perfect. But like it's like the almost more than the medal. It's like I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I'd say.
Joe, besides getting your phone mailed back to you,
Or the
homemade
pie.
Yeah.
Turkey
Well,
chocolate.
that's pretty good.
That's a really good one.
You want a Stein?
Hey, an easy way to get a homemade pie is just dress up. That's what I do.
Oh yeah.
Easy.
All right.
So everybody watching, just dress up for the turkey trot. Get a pie.
Nice.
Wait, diaper?
How do they
Or-
die?
No,
How do
no,
they? Yeah, how do they define dress up?
Well,
Like
you
a
gotta be in
pilgrim
that
or-
awesome costume, man. You'll
Okay.
see. Stay tuned for this year.
I'm
man.
excited.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm excited to see that. Yeah, I mean, I do love my Stein from Volkslav. Man, I would say not maybe like a tangible thing, but just the overall experience of doing Great Lakes Relay. That's a pretty awesome experience. Oh, I guess I can say a completely scarred for life car. So I took our car to Great Lakes Relay.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we got it detailed, and I don't smell it, but my wife says she can still smell that weekend in that car.
Still smell
so
meat train.
so
Yes,
so
yeah.
3 days of 10 guys running anywhere from 3 to 10 miles at a time throughout northern Michigan, and then hopping in the car, mix into that beer.
I was gonna say maybe some
Yeah.
drinking.
sand,
Yeah.
and all kinds
Whatever
of
else
crazy
was in your
stuff.
shorts.
Yeah. So yeah, there were no porta johns out there. So
No,
There's
there's
nature's
not.
porta john
Yes,
out there.
yes, it is.
So yeah, GLR. Even just the shirt. I mean, you see people walking around with that GLR shirt. It's almost like you have that immediate brotherhood with them.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them about it. So that I love my Stein from Volkslav. Yeah, I'll go with those two. Those are good.
That's pretty cool.
Biggest takeaway would be just thanks everyone who had their part, whether they were participating, volunteering, in any way, shape, or form for this year's Crim. We were talking internally as our team. It was one of the least stress-inducing weeks of race week executing it, and that. I mean, a lot of it had to do with the weather.
No, for
Being
sure.
graced with the
For
weather.
sure.
And also, I think it also partly had to do with the extra planning that we took into place after, as crazy a year as last year was. But also, it's by and large due to all the support, the volunteers and key volunteers and seasonal staff and all the racers that just had really positive energy this year. So thanks to everyone that was a part of this year's Crim in one way or another. And also join us for 5K on the runway. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, just to sort of add to what Joe was saying, is that, we really see ourselves as stewards of just what's a great tradition in the city and for the whole, throughout the whole greater Flint area and the community. And like you were saying, the culture is there. The culture is great, and it's phenomenal. It's unique. It's wonderful. And we're just proud to be a part of something that celebrates it and hopefully keeps it going. And Complete Runner is a huge part of that. And the fact that you're here and encouraging people and making sure that they stay healthy and uninjured, and that's a big deal. And so we really, we're proud to be part of that whole network, that ecosystem of runners and walkers. Yeah,
that's the fun part of it. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, is because it's fun.
Yeah, we love it. So keep racing, keep and race. The term or the idea of racing it's all relative. Like it's all what's ever is inside you. Like however you define it. Are you trying to beat the guy next to you? Are you trying to beat yourself? Are you just trying to get out there and have a good time? We don't care. We want you to be a part of what the whole community is doing here. So we're excited about it.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys stopping in,
Yeah, thanks for having us.
having some good stories,
Yeah.
and make sure to sign up for the Crim. 2020, it's going to be
2020.
The earliest it
It's
can
early
possibly
February,
be.
August
Saturday,
22nd.
August 22nd.
Yep.
22nd.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. It's always the fourth Saturday of August.
Crim.org or
Crim.org or
they
Crim
go?
Races. Either one. Crim.org, that tells the whole Crim story,
That's
which
true.
is pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Crimraces.org is very specific to our events. So
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It opens on Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday. So
Cyber
Monday
November
after
something.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Monday after
So
Thanksgiving.
sign up for the training program or sign up for Blue Line Club and come out and have some beers with everyone. So thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers. You have a word of the day on your camera or on your computer?
I do. Snaffle.
Nice.
Snaffle or seismic.
Yeah.
Seismic, that's a good word.
It usually pops up here with like the actual definition
Well,
of stuff.
Yeah, something did pop up.
Legend, subjective.
Prohibitive.
Yeah, prohibitive. That's what it was. Man, that's good memory.
Humanity. That's the human race. There you go.
So,
Yeah.
so we get everyone from the serious to the first timers to people who are continuing that challenge throughout their lives.
Calling this. Who's calling?
Beer break. Maybe we don't say the names, but like that's good.
Oh, we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
edit all that. So when the phone rang.
Dude, you want me to see who it is? I got it, man.
And that's what makes it real, right? Calling back
Twice?
twice.
Yeah.
That is some commitment.
Yeah, like I see someone call and I'm like, I don't know the number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I missed that. Oh, I'm going to call you
Right.
back.
And I'm
Right.
like, I'll listen to your voicemail if you leave a
I
voicemail.
know. No
Yeah.
voicemail? That wasn't important.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh yeah.
That
Exactly.
never happened.
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
Nice.
Gentlemen, this was amazing.
All
Thank
right,
you.
that
This was
might
really
that might be
great.
more of an hour.
Yeah.